I was going to say there's a few more seats up here, but come on in, Mr. Nolte. Got a loud crowd tonight. Okay, good afternoon, and I want to welcome you to the April 23rd, 2015 Longview City Council meeting. Can you hear me? Well, you better turn your hearing aid up. No, we've got a little standing room only. There are some seats on the side over here. Anybody wants to sit down, and there's some on this side. I want to make sure we don't shut that door on y'all. But anyway, welcome to the meeting. Tonight, our prayer and pledge will be led by Reverend Diana Wall with Wesley McCabe United Methodist Church. Would you please stand? Virginia.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Now, hold on. Time out. Time out.
It's printed incorrectly.
Okay.
My apologies.
Accepted, Mayor. Let us pray.
Yes, ma'am.
Almighty God, we thank you for your grace and mercy in every life this evening. We acknowledge your guiding spirit in the hearts of our mayor and city council representatives. We ask that you bless them and grant them wisdom and a discerning spirit to respond to the issues presented this evening. Guide the discussions and the resolutions to benefit the best interests of the citizens and this great city of Longview. In Jesus' name, with thanksgiving, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to kind of change the agenda. This is my last meeting, and we're going to kind of change some things up, so y'all bear with us. We're going to start with action item A, which is to consider a resolution accepting a donation of $12,500 from Mr. Ray Shelby for the purchase of one police canine for the Longview Police Department. Chief Dingler. Are you going up to accept what? Uh-oh. Rover.
Thank you, Mayor,
That gotta be a
Council,
mission,
Mr. Willard. Today, I'd like to reintroduce to you Mr. Ray Shelby. Several months ago, he made a contribution to the city so that we were able to purchase this canine. This is Indio. Come on up.
Uh-oh.
We tried to keep 3 canines in service. We had one that retired, and this is Indio. Mr. Shelby, this is the one that you made available so that we could get. He's a beautiful dog, and we do appreciate that. Also, Mr. Shelby has found out a few weeks ago we had a tragedy where Vestas, who is the canine partner of Officer Anthony Minyard, that canine passed away. Mr. Shelby heard of that and decided that he was going to buy another dog. So we want to thank Mr. Shelby, and I've got a plaque. Mr. Shelby, this is in recognition and appreciation for your support and contributions to the Longview Police Department Canine Program. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Mr. Shelby, thank you very much, sir, for your contributions. We greatly appreciate it. So while we're on that subject, we're going to go to item 5 with the animal shelter items. And we're going to consider a resolution accepting the various gifts from specified donors for the Longview Animal Shelter and Adoption Center, and directing that elements of said center be named in honor of the donors. Council, we have tonight information in front of you showing the plan and also the list of donors for the animal shelter this time. The first donation, of course, was $100,000 for Alicia and Ella Blue Nolte for the Spay and Neuter Center. Easy, Rover. Clinic. The $50,000 3D plastics exercise yard. The $10,000 donation from Mike and Amy Clements. I don't know if, did Mike get here tonight? Okay. For the dog display. $142,000 for the Vet for Pets, to be determined what they're going to name. $100,000 anonymous donation from a generous family here in town for the education room. $30,000 for the Debbie and Bill Bankston display. In a second, we'll talk about the naming rights, but at this point in time, Sean, give us the exact figure that we're at today.
I think we're at about $1,030,000, somewhere in that range, about $1,030,000.
All right. And this is the case with Mr. Shelby and his generosity. Here's a number of other families and organizations that have stepped forward to make the new shelter a reality. And we want to make sure everybody understands that we will continue, or y'all will continue, to raise funding for the shelter and operations of the shelter in the future. So at this time, we'll need a motion for the resolution.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Item B is the resolution accepting a gift of $300,000 for the Longview Animal Shelter and Adoption Center, and directing that said center be named in honor of the donors. There's a change to that, in that the doning family is not interested in naming the facility after their family. What they would prefer to do is to have a community competition, if you will, for naming the facility, which I'm going to ask Sean to give us an idea how this would work.
Sure. So what they've asked is actually that as part of their donation, they would like the community to submit creative ideas for naming the facility. Essentially, they like the idea of making it well known that this isn't your average everyday animal shelter, but instead they want it to be known that our goal is for adoptions. Our goal is to increase the amount of pets that get adopted out of that center, and as much as possible to reduce those euthanasia rates to as low as possible. And so there's a lot of front of house space that's more retail oriented, so they'd really like a creative name to go with that. So they're encouraging people to make a submission of a creative name. And so what we're asking people to do is submit that by June 30th, to go to, by email address, namethelshelter@longviewtexas.gov. So just submit that creative name, whatever it may be, to name the shelter at longviewtexas.gov. And then what will happen is the donor, along with the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee, will look through those names and make a selection.
Okay. And we will advertise this various places to make sure to get input, but this is a good idea for the community to have the input as to what name they think, would be proper for the shelter. So I encourage the community to get involved. I want to thank the family, Sue and Reuben Martin, for their donation. Sue, there's stories of Sue for many years driving around town, picking up animals in her car and bringing them to the shelter or bringing them home. And I've heard stories about how many different sized vehicles Mr. Martin has had to purchase in order for her to continue her activity of bringing animals to the shelter. But this is just another example of giving back to the community. We thank them very much. At that, we'd ask for a motion for that resolution. Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes.
Mayor,
Yes,
if
sir.
we could, we've got several, I believe, some folks here from Fet for Pets especially.
yeah.
They've got some kids that they brought. If we could bring them up and just recognize them for those various
Absolutely.
donations that were made.
Absolutely.
Hey, Sean, tell me the date again, June 30th?
June 30th is what we were thinking, is if we could have people from the community.
Thanks.
Okay, Ella, bring, y'all come up. Well, Alicia, you come up.
They got scared to come in. They thought you were gonna buy them.
Not me. That big canine monitor didn't come out of here. Okay. All right, well, thank y'all very much. So where's the rest of them?
They wouldn't come in here.
Why?
They were scared, they thought you were gonna buy them.
They know better than that. Well, look, thank you, Ella. And the first donation we received was from the Nobley family, and I had the honor of sitting down at lunchtime with Mike and Miss Ella and figuring out exactly what they wanted to name or what portion of the building they wanted to name. And it was very obvious that what we need to make sure happens with this facility, it's about the kids. It's about the children and teaching them, the importance of being good stewards of what God's given us in our animals. And she was very excited. Matter of fact, she picked out about every naming right that was on the piece of paper. And I said, you can have all those. Your daddy can write a big old check, right? She's ready to get them all, but she did a great job. And it's good to see children at this age that are very, very, mindful of us doing what we need to do to take care of our animals.
And we need to make sure that we realize for the city of Longview that the changes to help these animals is going to be through our children, through teaching them the education of how to save animals' lives, how to teach our community to be responsible pet owners, that you need to neuter and spay your pets. This is the most important. And I'd like to say that Fet for Pets would like to thank everyone in our community for volunteering and giving us and donating their time and their money. And these days, we know that you work really hard for these things, and you've been generous and given the money because you saw that this shelter, it was going to happen, and I just thank everyone. And we did it, thanks to Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Sean, while you got the mic, let's go ahead and do the presentation item. Drinking Water Week Committee, Sherry Ann Wilburn, Jeanette Jennings, Christy Chambers, and Jessica Connor. Please come forward. All right. We still getting our water tested. Well, y'all be scared. Come on up here. She was just kidding about me biting. I really don't bite. Y'all come on up. How you doing today? Okay, all right. We'll play this musical dais here. Drinking Water Week, May 3rd through the 9th, 2015. For more than 35 years, the American Water Works Association and its members have celebrated Drinking Water Week as a unique opportunity for both water professionals and the communities they serve to join together to recognize the vital role water plays in our daily lives. Access to safe and reliable water is crucial for the health and economic vitality of every community, and water is an increasingly precious local and global commodity. A water future that is reliable, safe, and secure gives Longview an economic advantage over other parts of the country. Having been uniquely blessed with sufficient high-quality and good-tasting water for the next 50 years that we are all stewards of, upon which future generations depend. Each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their market. So therefore, I, Jay Dean, by the authority vested in me, as mayor of the city of Longview, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through the 9th, 2015, as Drinking Water Week in Longview. Thank you all very much. You know, for many years, Longview's been recognized statewide for the quality of our water. And you know, one of the things that I'm very proud of is mayors, we have 2 very good water sources that we were able to negotiate contracts for the next 50 years with. So it's a great time and a great, you know, asset to Longview to have those contracts in place so that from an economic development standpoint, we'll be ahead of the competition in the future. So thank you all for your hard work. Okay. Like those shirts. How you about getting one of them?
We all want a shirt.
My days of freaking shirts are over with. Yes.
We get you one.
Okay. Consent agenda. Any items on consent agenda council like to pull for separate consideration? Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Let's see here. Okay, now we'll go to citizen comment. First comment card, Dan C. Thompson. Dan C. Thompson. Mr. Thompson is, Mr. Thompson? Okay.
Well, I was here Monday afternoon for the session, and I sat through pretty much the whole thing. I'm a lap swimmer, and when there's not a lap available, sometimes I join the 6 o'clock class in water aerobics, so I know some of the people in that water aerobics. I appreciate the fact that the city and the people that are proposing to receive the Paula Martin Jones Recreation Center have worked together. They've talked to LeTourneau University. They have made some effort to accommodate people like me that use the facility over there. And so I'm in favor of the action on the Paula Martin Jones Recreation Center. And I realize nothing's perfect. Your car, your house, they're not going to stay the same forever. You have to put tires, and you have to put gasoline, and you have to change the oil, and there are things you have to do to make things go. And that's going to be true of anything, and therefore I support this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. J.D. Palmer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm here because I'm concerned about the Paula Martin Jones Recreation Center. I was here Monday also and sit through all of it. My big concern is that even though LeTourneau has offered their swimming pool, but there are things that we have at Paula Martin Jones that I don't think LeTourneau can match. For instance, at Paula Martin Jones, the seniors who are not able to go in the pool by the steps have lifts, chairs that they can sit in, and it will let them have access to the pool and out of the pool. I believe that it would be wrong to take away a facility that is serving the community, and especially our senior citizens, in such a needed and splendid way. I believe it would be wrong to take away that facility and turn it into something else. I'm all for the Boys and Girls Club. I think that is also a very good ministry, if you will. But I believe that the community would be better served if the city would partner with that organization to build a facility for them rather than take away this one that our senior citizens are desperately in need of, that they may maintain a quality of life. I'm blessed. At 73 years old, I'm still relatively healthy. But I go over there and work out sometime myself. But I think it would be an injustice. These people who've given this city their sweat and blood, helping to build this city in the shadow of their sundown, to have this taken away from them, I think would be a big injustice. So I plead with this council, Mr. Mayor and the council, I plead with you that you not do this, that you find an alternate way to help the Boys and Girls Club have the facility that they need without taking away from our senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. John T. Smith.
Mayor Dean,
Neighbor.
Council. My name is John T. Smith IV. I live at 101 Falcon Way. I returned to Longview approximately 3.5 years ago after being gone for a good 28 years. Incidentally, I stand here 6'1", 255 pounds. With respect to the Paula Martin Jones Recreation Center, that is very relevant. Although I'm relatively a young man at 46, I know of no other facility where I could reduce my weight at a minimal of cost to my ideal body weight, which is, I'm told, 195 pounds, than to make my pilgrimages across the north side of town to the south to work out. There are some facilities there that are second to none, well maintained for that area. It really is a nucleus for a group of often overlooked senior citizens that managing their health and well-being is much more of a necessity than the potential opportunities afforded to additional youth if the city were to decide to turn it over. And so it may be ironic that I'm standing here speaking on behalf of a class of distinguished senior citizens that I'm not yet a part of, but I may very well soon be. And if that time comes, Lord willing, I too will be taking advantage of the indoor racquetball, the indoor swimming, I believe at a cost of $15 per month with no contractual agreement, and that is unlike any other facility, health or recreation facility in Longview, anywhere. And so I think there's an invaluable and an intangible investment into our senior citizens when we keep those doors open to them, and whatever concerns there may be about youth and the access to recreation through U360. I think I have some insight into that as well as a high school teacher at Longview High School. There are any number of facilities and recreation and outlets for youth to continue to develop their bodies. And if I might add, there may not be enough opportunities to develop their minds in the recreational aspects of critical thinking and problem solving. But with all that said, I'd like to ask you to reconsider not transferring the facility from the city's ownership, precisely because I do believe that the city has a more vested interest in the health and well-being of our seniors than the turning it over to the 360 youth. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Pete Latursky.
Thank you. I'm Pete Latersky, and I'm a frequent user at the Paula Martin Jones Pool. And I'm not really an opponent of Thrive 360. I think it's a great program, something that I spent a year as a teacher last year at Forest Park Middle School, and I can see the need for it. But I think that we're making a mistake at the pace that we're moving. On Monday, Mr. Mayor, you asked the people who were concerned about this proposal not to rush to conclusions, not to rush to make any judgment on this, but the fact is we do have to rush if you're going to act tonight. You guys have had, at my best estimate, at least maybe 5 months to think about this. We first became aware of the possibility of this 5 months ago, kind of by accident. My wife was part of a delegation that met with Mr. Willard and other city leaders about the concept of giving this pool back to the Paula Martin Jones charities. I think that should have been enough time to think about creative ways that everyone could be served by this great facility. I know there would still be snags because they would be operating in the afternoon and evening, and we have people who use that facility in the evening. So there would still be snags, and you still need to work things out. But the bulk of the water aerobics and a lot of the people who come there for fitness purposes do come in the morning. Mr. Jahorik showed a willingness, and actually more than just a willingness, he seemed to invite the idea, welcome the idea of sharing that facility with the current users at the times that the kids wouldn't be there. And that's great, but that doesn't totally solve the problem, and that doesn't give us any assurances. There are people who use that facility every single day, or 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever frequency they can and they need to, who need assurances that this isn't going to disappear. And you cannot offer that right now because you haven't addressed that issue yet with Mr. Jahorik and with this request. I think the city council needs to not act tonight. The city council and the city leaders, possibly, if I understand it right, you're searching for a new Parks and Rec director because of the reshaping of some responsibilities earlier this year. People that are going to be involved in providing these essential services to an important part of the community need to get to work and come up with a solution other than to say, well, we're going to put the exercise equipment in storage because we don't have any place we can take it right now. There's no room at Broughton. There's no place to do it right now. Go down there and see the people that use that equipment every day. Don't tell them that they can't have access to fitness. It's affordable, it's accessible, it's one of the few facilities south of Marshall Avenue. So it's accessible to a big part of our community, and it's affordable to a big part of our community. That's important to me. I'm not working full-time anymore. I count my pennies. And that's one reason I started going to Paula Martin Jones. The reason I stay there is the quality of the programming, the quality of the people, and your new pool supervisor who has done a great job of turning around some of the problems we were seeing as users of that facility. So I'm asking you, don't rush to a decision tonight. Yes, work with Thrive 360. Come up with some great answers for this community, but do it before you sign the dotted line. You don't sell a house or buy a house. You don't make a contract before you know the details and know the overall plans. And there's a big gap in this proposal right now. And if I have any time left on my time, I sure hope you don't do away with the red light cameras. As you know, in my former role as editor of the newspaper, more than 10 years ago, we did a big study. I sent reporters to every major intersection in the city to count the people who were running red lights. That is a huge problem in the city. I'm not sure why people are against this. I don't think those red lights are there just to raise money for the city. I think those red lights are there to protect me when I get a green light and proceed through the intersection at any one of these major places where you see the people jumping or not jumping, I mean, they run red lights. Red is a Texas yellow, or at least a Longview yellow in this town. And we know this, we talk about it, and we lament about it all the time. So please, please stay with that program. If anything that helps protect me, my family, my grandchildren, my mother, all 4 generations of us that live here, I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, Giovanni Hennessy. Giovanni Hennessy. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Giovanna. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the time today. My name's Giovanna Hennessy, and I am a senior, and I've lived in Longview for over 12 years. I've utilized Paula Martin Jones for approximately a little over 3 years. I've got serious spinal injuries, and I'm under doctor's orders to exercise. I can't swim anywhere else. I can't afford the Institute. The pools at the Institute don't lend themselves to water aerobics like Paula Martin Jones does. It's wonderful that LeTourneau talked about opening their doors and helping us, but they've got their swim teams in there. That water is 10 degrees cooler, which is difficult for seniors. And, you know, I have to work. And I swim that 5:30 class at least 4, if not 5 days a week. And I need it. And I look at the other people in there. On Wednesdays and Thursday nights, it's difficult after 5 o'clock to find a parking space in front of that. You've got 6 or 8 people using the exercise equipment up front. They're playing volleyball. Their seniors playing basketball, racquetball. That facility is busy with adults from our community that can afford to be there, that can't afford to go other places, I can't afford to go to the Institute. You know, I have to work, and that 5:30 class has been extremely important to me. Since I've been in Longview, I've heard the Economic Development Department of Longview state that this area, East Texas, is a wonderful area for retirement. Well, what are we doing for our seniors? You know, where else can adults go to swim and stay under a roof to exercise at a reasonable cost? Because if I can't go to that class, I don't know where I can go. I'd look possibly for a yoga class or something, but I can't jog, I can't run. In the heat of the summer, I can't be outside, and I have to exercise. It's a must. There's so many other seniors like me that can afford Paula Martin Jones, that appreciate it. We have dedicated instructors there. It's been a lifesaver for me. And if you take that away from us, you're denying our seniors and the adults in our community a place to go. I mean, there's lots of children's programs, I understand that, but there are the Boys and Girls Clubs. The children can go outside a lot easier than the adults can. To me, you're just shutting us out. And I don't know where else or what the community is doing for seniors. You're advertising that East Texas is a wonderful retirement area. What are you doing to support that? You know, talking about building another pool, you're talking years down the road. You know, why can't we keep what we have open? I beg of you to either put this off. I'd heard a little bit of talk about this, but I really found out just the other evening that you were going to vote on it. You know, I'd love to spend time and put a petition out there and have people that come in and use that facility that usually don't come to these meetings, you know, be able to say something. You know, this is happening so fast. And like I say, I don't know where a lot of us are going to go. You're shutting the door on a big part of the community by doing this, by closing that pool. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
I appreciate it.
Adrienne Pamplin. Adrienne Pamplin. Ms. Pamplin.
Good evening. I'm Adrienne Pamplin, 1908 Clinton Street in Longview. I've lived here 20 years, and I'm a member of Paula Martin Jones. I hope each of you on the city council went by Paul Martin Jones this week. I met you there. And just take a look at the programs that are going on. Take a look at the people who are coming in and out. All ages, all colors, all faiths. It's a melting pot of people encouraging each other and trying to overcome and maintain. More than 300 each month come from all cities all over Gregg County to use the facility. And some of them are able-bodied. They're back in the weight room and the gym, but many of them can't do that much, and they're valiant. They're valiant as soldiers. They come day after day. They're always there. They're always working. They may hurt, but they're there and they're working. PMJ has the only water aerobics program, including water Zumba, in the city of Longview. They have 4 to 5 classes a week, and it is the only pool in town that has not just ladders that go up, but railed steps to go up and down, and the electronic lift that takes people into the pool that can't walk down the steps. Thomas had a stroke and was told by his physician that he might never walk again. He's there every day, making his way slowly to the pool and does the programs. And Ron comes nearly every day from an assisted living facility. He has osteoporosis. He's all bent over. He carries his stuff in, makes his way to the water, and swims like a boy and works out with the resistance weights. He told me that the only thing keeping him out of a wheelchair is being able to come and do that. And I've been there 5 years, and I walk without a limp. I just had double knee replacement surgery last year. And I can't tell you the difference that it's made in my life. And because of all the workout options, they have water to weights, treadmills, bicycles, machines. All ages and all fitness levels do enjoy the facility, but it has a dramatic improvement on quality of life for so many people that would have nowhere else to go. The facility is perfect for all of us, and Longview's sold as a medical and a retirement destination. If y'all mean it, then please support us. Please support the people that have been over there and come when they don't feel like it, come when they're hurting, encourage each other. Give us a place to go. We need good youth programs. I have nothing against the youth program that's being proposed. It's excellent. But to do away with this facility would be to do away with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
very much.
Barbara McDaniel. Barbara McDaniel.
Well, I think that everybody's already said just about anything.
Okay, well, we'll call next one.
Well, that's all right. I do have one or two little things. Keith Bibbs is our
Like
new...
your green shirt, too. Where'd you get that one?
Green Street.
Oh.
I'm a member of the Garden Club. I have been this afternoon over at Maud Cobb
Yeah.
Garden for the Blind.
Green water shirt.
I've been working,
I know.
volunteering.
I know. I saw you.
And then
Saturday.
tomorrow night, I'll volunteer at Belcher. I've seated some of y'all before at different shows. And the reason I can do it is Paula Martin Jones.
There you go.
So,
Boy, you went a long way to get back to the subject.
you hired Keith Bibbs to be in charge of Paula Martin Jones now, and he is doing a great job. He has cleaned it up. There's no trash in the bottom of the pool. There's no scum around the side. He has done a wonderful job, except he has, every time, he has to go get permission from somebody else before he can do anything. And I wish he had, when I tell him what we need, I wish he could say, oh, let's do it, you know, but he says, I've got to go run it by Parks. So, And as far as Monday's meeting, I was very impressed, but there was a lot of, I assure you this, I promise you this, if this happens, when that happens, I would like to see things in writing before anything is done. That's all. Thank you.
You've been here a long time this afternoon. I appreciate you coming.
Oh, well, I didn't want to drive home from Maud Cobb.
We enjoyed, was the cake any good?
I had the punch. I left the cake off.
Come on. You doing all that Paula Martin Jones workout, you'll be eating all the cake you want.
Well, I was just there for
That's
2
amazing
hours.
workout,
That would
so
take
you can
3
eat.
hours for the cake.
I hear you.
Thank
She was it. Thank you, ma'am. Jeremiah Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name's Jeremiah Hunter, live at 314 East Twilight Drive. Just wanted to address the red light cameras real quick. I know some of the council members are already declared for it, some against it, some of you still debating. I just wanted to remind the council that there is legislation pending in the state legislature in Austin to do a statewide ban of red light cameras. So I would urge the council to postpone this decision until the end of the legislative session because I think it would do no good to go ahead and approve the contract with the city, only to a month or two later have a statewide ban and have to undo everything. So I would just do that. Also, with the very fact that we are about to see a large turnover on the council makeup and the mayor, I think to make this decision now in literally the 11th hour of the current makeup of the council, I don't see the wisdom in that. Also, just reading the Longview News Journal article with the stats that were requested by council, there is no statistical evidence to back up the fact that there is any real positive effect. In fact, several intersections, the number of accidents have gone up since the installation of the red light cameras. And yes, there's been some down in some, up in others, therefore that's a statistical zero sum. So I would argue that it does not. And the fact that after all the fees that the city pays to the private operator and the state, I believe the figure was the city is only making $80,000 a year off of the total program, and that does not justify any sort of existence of the program, especially with being so universally, not to put too fine a point on it, but abhorred. Nobody I know is in favor of it. Nobody likes it. There are a few people who have decided they are for it for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but I just think given all of those circumstances, I would urge the council to not renew the contract on the red light cameras. Thank you very much.
Jeremiah, thank you. Terry Hill.
Good evening. I'm here today to respectfully request the city not renew the contract with Redflex Traffic Systems for the red light traffic cameras. The red light traffic cameras are unconstitutional. There are much cheaper alternatives that have been proven to greatly reduce the number of accidents. There is current pending legislation, as Jeremiah mentioned, in Texas to outlaw these camera systems. And lastly, this company you are contemplating signing a 10-year contract with was recently investigated and indicted for fraud by the FBI, and as of last month, the current CEO resigned amidst new scandals. First, the red light camera traffic enforcement system is unconstitutional. The Fifth and Sixth Amendments are completely violated. Let's review the Fifth Amendment. Based on the Fifth Amendment, the burden of proof rests with the accusers, and therefore it is not my responsibility to prove my innocence. Rather, it is the responsibility of Redflex Traffic Solutions to prove my guilt, which, based on the video evidence provided with the citation notice, they clearly cannot do. Why? Because the camera can only record the actions of the vehicle. It cannot identify the driver. But more simply, the Fifth Amendment gives me the right to not testify against myself. Additionally, the Sixth Amendment assures me the right to face my accuser. But that's kind of impossible if my initial accuser is some guy viewing the actions of my car, but not necessarily me driving it, on a video monitor somewhere in Arizona or Ohio, sitting in a cubicle under the watchful eyes of their employer, which is a for-profit, out-of-state, third-party private corporation whose main source of income is in direct proportion to the quantity of red light runners they can catch on camera. This alone presents a huge conflict of interest on the entire scenario, and it certainly isn't about our safety. So what are the alternatives? One alternative is to lengthen the yellow light, which is shown to dramatically reduce the number of cars running the lights. One study by the National Cooperation of Highway Research Program showed a 69% decrease in violations when a yellow was increased from 4 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Other studies gave similar results and also rated engineering countermeasures such as longer yellows most effective in reducing unintentional running, while enforcement, including cameras, was considered less effective. Now you might ask, if running a traffic light goes down and stays down with no rebound, when you lengthen the yellow, do the accidents also go down? The answer is yes. Lengthening the yellow also reduces severe accidents. One source is a 2004 study by the Texas Transportation Institute, which found that, quote, an increase in the yellow duration of 1 second is associated with a crash frequency of about 0.6, which corresponds to a 40% reduction in crashes. Lengthening the time of a yellow light cost the taxpayers nothing. The contract with Redflex cost the taxpayers $60,000 a month, or $720,000 a year. And the lengthening the time of the yellow light, as I've shown, has proven to be more effective at preventing accidents. Regarding current legislation, the Texas Senate yesterday overwhelmingly passed Senator Bob Hall's bill, which would outlaw the use of red light cameras, and is also expected to pass the House shortly. Why in the world the City of Longview would want to sign a 10-year contract tonight for a program that will very likely be against state law in the coming weeks is insane. And finally, the company in question, Redflex Traffic Systems, is covered in controversy, lawsuits, federal indictments, in severe financial trouble, and over the last 3 years, they have gone through 7 directors, 3 chairmen, and 3 CEOs. This is not a company that our tax dollars should be supporting. Renewing this contract should not even be an option. There are too many unknowns regarding the legality of this practice, the viability of this company, and there are other alternatives to the safety concerns. I implore you to be a steward of good judgment and sound financial practice and just say no to the red light cameras in Longview.
Wow. Great research, Ms. Hill. You put some time into that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Steve Crane. That's some interesting information. I've heard about that yellow light. Huh?
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity. I agree with Pete. I don't know that I could say anything more than what Pete Latursky or anybody else.
Okay, next speaker card then.
Well, the Paula Martin, well, I'm not finished though. Except to say one thing. In my work as an advocate for the disabled, the one thing that I hear from doctors consistently, especially people with fibromyalgia or joint problems, is the need to exercise. The only place to get good quality exercise is in a pool. That's it. The low-impact exercise is the best exercise for people with these kinds of problems. So, you know, I am absolutely, completely opposed to turning over the Paula Martin Jones Center to the charity. That doesn't mean I'm against what they're trying to do for the kids. It's a great program. But there's a middle way, and you guys need to table this. And then the other thing is, Ms. Hill, that was a great job.
I thought so too. Okay, that's the last speaker card. Okay, council, let's get into this action item C. Okay, and I got a few comments to make, but first of all, I'm going to recommend that each of you at your desk should have an amended ordinance that basically states that the council would ask the city manager and/or his designee to move the process forward with the charity to discuss and actually come up. I stated to the city manager and assistant city manager a couple days ago that after the meeting on Monday, I was disappointed with the lack of some of the questions we had. and I think I said that here, that we needed some time to answer some, and I've got them. Will the general public still have access to the pool? What happens if Thrive 360, Martin Charities, that program didn't work? Will the city get it back? How long would the pool be closed during improvements? If access were granted, who would control that access? Questions about the use of Laterno. So we have all the questions. But what I would recommend that we do in this ordinance amendment is to allow the city manager and his designee to work with the charity to answer these and other questions, and to come back with the answers to the questions for the council to consider those to approve. Normally in an ordinance that we do, when we take action, we give him the authority, we give the city manager the authority to go out and negotiate on our behalf to consummate a contract, okay? In this case, this would come back to the city council to be approved by the city council after everything was brought to light in terms of these questions, possibly more, okay? So that's going to be something, and it's not a table, because there's some of the reason that you can't get some of these answers. The charity's waiting to know if they can get the building so they can get construction people in there to tell them how long it's going to take them. So how do you answer the question about how long would it be closed? They don't want to spend the money to go hire engineers. So there's some standstill, but without this moving forward. I think this would allow the process to move forward and the question to be asked. I think it should be such that the public continues to have input, just like we did on Monday, okay, and come up with a good product. And you know, I've spoken to Mr. Martin, and you know, his statement to me was, and it has been early on, that maybe we ought to just go build our own building, but we'd like to have access to the facility while we're building our building to help the kids. Let me tell you what I think about that. I believe, and I'm not going to be the mayor at this point, but I believe that in the future, I don't think it's a very distant future, we're going to be at this fork in the road. That facility needs a tremendous amount of expensive work. The pool and the roof that was changed, okay, are in good shape. But the rest of the facility is not in such good shape. I've heard different numbers. One number that sticks in my head is $1.2 million to fix the building and bring it up. ADA codes, all the different things that need to happen. I'm afraid that without trying to figure out how to cooperate with the charity and with the public coming together, and of course, everybody's saying, man, I believe in the kids, but I don't want to be inconvenienced. It doesn't work that way. You know, it just doesn't work that way. The process has to work such that everybody puts in, and it ends up being a good program for both. But if the city ends up with this building down the road and doesn't have the money in the coffers to spend the $1.2 million or however, in older buildings, you know what happens. You know, you open this and you find, oh, what I know about that, and it just continues to mount, and then they end up closing the whole thing. And that is I'm not going to be the mayor, but that is a true possibility, okay? So I think we should amend the ordinance to say that they will continue to move forward, everybody continue to have input, and try to answer a lot of these questions that we don't have the answers to. And I think we need to have the answers to. And we need to continue. I mean, we've heard from a lot of people tonight. I've gotten a lot of phone calls. We talk about the low cost of what it costs to go out there. I've had calls from people that say, well, wait a minute. We're using tax dollars to subsidize other people's, you know, ability to go use this facility. You know, oh, I'm paying to go to that. Somebody mentioned the Institute. You know, why are we using tax dollars to do that? So there's people all over this issue, and I personally believe it needs the time, okay, additional time, to get more answers to the questions that we don't today have. No, sir, we've had citizen comment. So I'm gonna put that out, and I'd like to hear from council.
I'm in favor.
Okay, so are you saying that as a form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend to give this, you want to read that amendment?
Yeah, can we have just a minute?
Sure, whoa. Yep, I'd like, y'all should have
Well,
it.
we actually,
Why don't you put
there's
the,
actually C on our list, Mr. Mayor. We skipped over B.
I did that intentionally. Yeah, I've skipped all over the place now.
Okay.
We said that up front. Go ahead, no, we've got a motion, but the discussion can continue, but make sure you have the copy of the amendment. We sent that was sent yesterday, I think.
I guess my.
Question, go ahead.
Well, my comment would be, I'm on board with everything that you said. I'm a little leery about some of the language in this proposed amendment. I agree that I would like to instruct city staff to continue getting answers to questions, moving forward with the general process. I just would feel more comfortable if we did that, maybe not with some of the language that's in
Okay,
here.
but the city manager's right, the city attorney's right there. What language would you?
I mean, the ordinance as it's proposed authorizes the city manager to go out and negotiate and then come back
Right.
with the proposal that council would have to approve.
Yes, here's the part I don't
And
like.
there's no transfer. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and tell me if I'm reading the wrong thing then, but I'm on page 2, and it's, whereas the city now desires to dispose of the property and to transfer and convey said property to Martin Charities, et cetera, I guess I would just feel more comfortable if we're, instructing city staff to go back and get questions answered, and then bring it back to discussion. And then further on, city council finds and determines that the transfer and conveyance serves a public purpose, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It just sounds very dispositive at this point, so I would feel better if we remove some of that language and still go with everything Jay said, moving forward to get answers to questions that have been brought up, with the idea that we're going to reach a compromise.
Well, I think the key thing is no transfer can happen by the city manager without it coming back to the council to approve. So I understand what you're saying about the language, but really what it says, in my understanding it says, is that he can go out and negotiate and try to get answers to these questions, but he can't approve it. So there's no transfer taking place. There wouldn't have.
Right, but we are saying that we desire to dispose of the property and et cetera, so.
Well, we can remove.
Yes.
Would you want to
Yes.
remove the whereas before the now, therefore?
Yeah, I don't like the,
Okay, we can remove that.
I'd remove that paragraph, and then I'd remove of the last paragraph, the public purpose part. But then I'm fine with the city council directs to negotiate, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, just remove the desire.
We removed that last paragraph,
Okay.
last word.
We'll make note of that.
Do I need to move to amend?
Well, hang on just one second,
Sorry.
because I think some other people might have. Gary, you have a question, comment, or anything?
Well, actually, what I had is in the motion that we're gonna place forward on the table tonight. It should be a motion to postpone into a certain date and time.
That's not what the amendment is, nor is that what the motion is. The amendment is to move the process forward, giving the city man, would you do me a favor and read over that amendment and make sure?
Well, I looked over that amendment.
If you tabled, you're not
you're
going to
not
get
tabling
answers to
anything.
these questions, Gary.
But you basically postpone it till that
Okay.
information can
Okay.
be slogged.
Okay. Go ahead, do you have a question?
Oh, no, it's just point of clarification. I don't think that it can be secured until we allow the city manager to proceed.
Well, you can't get these answers until, there's some due diligence put in place by the chairman.
But I agree with Councilwoman Ishihara in regard to the language, because it is what those changes need to be amended to show that, because we are in good faith trying to ensure that there is some type of partnership there to some degree, and that our questions are at least answered so that everyone is clear. Because I know I've gotten a ton of phone calls in regard to this issue. If you've called me, you probably know where I stand. And, just to make sure that everyone's clear and that we don't leave a stone unturned with this.
And one thing too, Ms. Williams has been talking about and working on as part of this, and again, we can't answer, is like Broughton Park enhancements, improvements.
Yes, and that is something we need to look at. I urge the community to really give some serious thought to the fact that we have 2 facilities that are in dire need of work and have been somewhat neglected. And I accept full responsibility for any role that I've played in that over the years, and not maybe just evaluating it a little more closely. But here we are. And I'm looking at it strictly from an economic standpoint right now. What is going to be affordable, and what can we do at the same time while doing what we can to help our senior citizens and our children in our community? And I have to say this as well. I utilize Paula Martin Jones. Many of you see me in there working out, sometimes as many as 3 times a week. And I also pay for a Zumba class that I take there. So, you know, it's somewhat bittersweet, but at the end of the day, we just have to really carefully consider everything that's on the table. And we're willing to at least try to find the answers to the questions that the community has.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Manley, you...
Well, 2 things. I've come to, as the only attorney on the council, I've come to appreciate Ms. Ishihara's research and her opinion, so I would defer to her on these matters, and I'm sure she and the city attorney can arm wrestle over what the verbiage needs to be.
It's fine.
Okay, he's given up already. Secondly, this is the way the process is supposed to work, folks. You know, we had a town hall meeting on Monday, and the people spoke, and we listened. And this is the way it's supposed to work. So I feel really good about this. I think that we'll get the answers that we need. We'll come back, we'll have another town hall meeting, and then we'll vote. And that's the way it's supposed to work. So you should feel good about your city.
Yeah, I think the thing about Broughton is that if there's some of the classes or some of the different things that currently go on at Paul Martin Jones, that if they would negotiate something that would inconvenience the current users of the facility, but that activity was actually taking place at Broughton.
Correct.
That there's things like that, but again, you can't get those answers until you really, you know, get into the negotiations further. And of course, I do understand that Thrive 360 has some timelines of trying to get kids, but you know, that's one group that's not here tonight to speak. It's the kids. And when you talk to the police about, you know, programs such as this, structured programs such as this, that, you know, they can get the older kids that are falling out of the Boys and Girls Club and get them into structured programs. You know, and I heard the other day at the meeting, you know, Mr. Johork, Pastor Johork was getting, and his associates were getting hammered pretty good. Tell me you're going to have 1,000 people come June 1. Look, if you had 50 people, you know, if you had kids that are coming out of the street and they're in a structured program, aren't we a better community because of that? Aren't we? I mean, but we find out everybody gets inconvenienced a little bit. But at the end of the day, if we do this right, we'll end up with a good product, and everybody gets satisfaction. So, okay, so not everybody's going to be happy, and I get that. Okay. Oh, just one second. Mr.
Mayor,
Sims.
we're always forming task force to take care of needs of the city. I would ask the city manager to include in negotiations. My thought is one person from each district. So we get away from all of this. Well, they said this and they said that. Our senior citizens will know exactly and can comment on our negotiations. And
excuse me a second, Jeff, would you so you'd be recommending a council task force or a mayor's task force? Where, in other words, council, where the council would select
one person from each from their district to work with the city manager and hash this out, because hey, I'm all for the kids, but I'm telling you, at 81 years old, I'm for the seniors too.
Go ahead. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to state, we have a Parks Board, and that would fall under our Parks Board instead of having to create. We do have one. I mean, and that could be an issue. You know, we have time to to think about it. I don't know, when is the next Parks meeting?
Not till May.
May?
May 18th.
Well, but that could be, I mean, it's just an option.
Well, the only thing there is, we would probably have someone from each district that this is of great interest to them, and that could make their recommendations to the manager and his people. And I really feel like I've been on the council 9 years now, and I've never seen anything work this fast. Hell, it took 7 years to get an animal shelter. Surely we can take a little more time to negotiate with.
Well, and I agree, but you gotta keep, if that's what this is about, this amendment is to keep the process moving forward.
Moving forward.
Okay, and give everybody the opportunity to look at all of the different
Right,
options and
right.
whatnot, and that's what's been proposed. So, and as far as a task force, I would, I'd probably suggest that the next council coming in, can do that. A mayor,
Yeah, if
the
they
mayor.
so desire.
The mayor can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, put
Yeah.
that in place, to do that. And I like the idea about the Parks Board being involved as well.
And also, Mayor, let me just add, I need to ask something to be clear on. Operations are not going to cease at this facility, correct?
No.
Okay, and that's something that we want to make sure we don't get lost in the shuffle of what's taking place. Operations will not cease. We're still in the negotiating phase. I'm just trying to make sure that we all understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everything is nothing changes.
Because it may seem as if we're ceasing operation, or we're saying we're stopping,
Okay, hold on.
you know.
City managers,
That's not,
Well, that's what
that's I think confusing.
And I do too.
Right. That was the posting.
Yeah.
Right.
that was the original.
posting, so
And we amended that.
We have the
so
amendment.
That's,
With this new ordinance, with the amendments Councilor Sahara made, is that we negotiate and then it will come back to council for approval.
Right, and I
We will
think that
continue
was
our
confusing
operations
people as
And
well.
that- yeah, it does nothing
everything
with
continues
operations.
as
Right.
is.
On
Heard
page 2, I would do away with the entirety of the first full paragraph and
Whereas the city now desires to do away
right,
with that
whole thing,
paragraph.
and do away with the entire third paragraph on that, yep.
Yes, okay, thank you. That's my amended motion.
Thank you, Sydney.
Right. Any other questions?
Is he moving to amend the original
That's my-
motion? Is
that's my
that what you,
amended
is that what you're saying?
That's my amended motion to remove the whereas the city now desires and whereas the city council finds and determines. Take those two paragraphs out.
You have the amended motion there,
Yes.
and what he's doing is what Mr. Shahara is doing is removing some additional language in the amended version of
In the
that.
amended version, okay.
Correct.
All right.
And is that what your motion is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second on that
Second.
motion? I have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the, another one, another good item here. Item B, resolution regarding the red flex traffic systems. Chief, did you want to make, got your name here on that. You want to make a few comments on that?
Mayor, the information that I have is the same that y'all received several days ago. We don't have anything new, so I'll be glad to go over that with you. I do have a presentation if you'd like to have that.
We need, okay. We don't need to redo the, okay. I don't think so, Chief. Let me, thank you, Chief. Let's give it a little time to clear. Sure. Okay, on the red light issue, the red flex, red light issue, I've got to say that I agree with a couple of the speakers tonight, that the Texas legislature is right in the middle of, the Senate's already voted. It passed 23-7. The House has not yet taken up that item, but it is to ban red light cameras. And to just give a little history on that, this is the third legislative session this has been proposed. And the first time, it was because a number of cities, especially in the Metroplex area, were making lots of money off of these systems and were in a major way supplementing their budget. And the state wanted to, or the legislature wanted to outlaw it because of that, and also get their cut, if you will, of those fines. Now, as I understand, and correct me, Chief, if I'm wrong, but on red light camera revenue, the state doesn't collect 60% of that ticket or that fine as they do on city traffic tickets, like speeding, et cetera.
That's correct. The Redflex receives $4,800 per month per camera. The revenue that comes in is then split with the city, and then that the city gets is split with the comptroller's office. So Redflex does get the biggest bite of the apple.
Okay. Okay. All right. But I mean, it wasn't I think there's a little confusion that the state was getting a portion, like the 60% portion of the total fine, like they do with the citations.
No, sir, it's not the same as it is a regular citation.
Okay. All right, thanks. Mr. Finley?
There's one thing I just want to clear up that's been stated, is that the legislation that has passed provides an exception that if you are under contract before June 1st, then you can continue the program. I just wanted to...
Yeah, until it's time. I did talk to Senator Eltime, and what it says is once that contract expires, you cannot renew it.
That's
okay,
correct.
So it's sort of grandfathered. But I think it makes prudent sense. There's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month left, unless they call for a additional session to see exactly what, I mean, as was mentioned tonight, we go and approve or disapprove whatever we do tonight. The state passes legislation, and now it's outlawed right then at that point. To me, wouldn't be a prudent, thing to do. What's another month going to be to look at this issue? And I'm getting this look from this issue here, and I know why. But that would be my recommendation, is that the council table this and see what happens with the legislature. And before, well, I'm not making that motion. That's what I would strongly recommend at this point in time. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, my opinion, obviously, is that I'd like to go ahead tonight and vote against renewing our contract. My statement at our last meeting was that it's pretty simple. We either have the statistical data to show that there was a reduction in accidents, or we don't. And it is my opinion that we do not have that. We've had the red light cameras for 8 years, and if they were reducing accidents in those intersections, I think we could clearly show it. And I do not feel like we've clearly shown that. So my opinion is I'm ready to move forward and vote against renewing the contracts. But I understand the inclination to do that, but I would be opposed to tabling the vote.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I stand in favor of our police chief and his men. They desire to keep the red light cameras, and I think this council should stand behind the police chief and our police force, and not do away with it.
Okay. I'm gonna, okay, so we got, and I know that's kind of where the whole council is, back and forth. And there's, and I know Sydney brought up last time, if you're on a red light, pay your fine. I mean, if you get stopped for speeding, I mean, there's no question, you pay your fine. And there are ways that they can use these, they're videoed. They're not still photos. They're videoed, and you can get that. But again, the fact that your legislature is going to or not approve this, and if they did, you're going to come back and be having to undo what you've done. I just don't think it's a prudent thing to do. Give it. Let's let it go through their process. I said this, at the meeting when I said I'm not a big fan of this, but the state really should have some input as to how this works. So every city doesn't have a different ordinance of how or if they use them, et cetera. So I believe it's the right thing to do to table it and let the legislature let things work through the legislature, and then council can then, decide what they want to do. So I've gotten a motion, I believe.
Well, wait a minute, I hadn't had the opportunity to say what I need to say first.
Well, raise your hand and tell
I
us you're
had my
ready to talk.
hand up.
Well, I just saw it. You just
Okay,
raised
here it is right here.
Go ahead.
All right. I understand that everybody out here is against those red light cameras. And if you run a light, like the mayor said, you're going to get a ticket for that. But let me tell you what the state does with that money and the city does with that money, because nobody has really brought that out. I mean, you can have all the statistics you want about who runs the light, who knows how many accidents there were. My thought is this. I mean, I'm about helping somebody. The state takes that money and funds trauma centers all over the state of Texas, one in Dallas, and it's one right down the street from us in Marshall. Good Shepherd operates the center down there. Is a level 3 advanced unit for trauma victims. Trauma victims that suffer with PTSD. Who ever heard of that before? Post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what soldiers get in combat when they come back to the United States. That's what a person gets when you have an injury in a car accident, gun violence. You can go to those centers and get treatment, and the state funds those units to be able to provide that type of help to those individuals. I don't know if anybody in here has PTSD or not, but if you did, you go right down here at Marshall at an advanced level 3 at Good Shepherd in Marshall, Texas. That's the way some of that money. Reflect used that money basically to continue to upgrade their equipment. We as a city, I'm not sure if we're doing our due diligence or not. And I say that because our money is supposed to be used for emergency firefighters and police officers so they can learn trauma care when they're in an accident. It's supposed to be used for upgrading our red lights to, what's those new lights called, Mr. Sims? But they supposed to upgrade our red lights, doing the pedestrian traffic white lanes that you see when you go up to a light. That's what that money is used for, and I don't think a lot of it actually getting out to the public on what that money is going for. I don't mind paying, but I just know what I'm paying for. So that's my take on that, Mr. Mayor. I've gotten tickets before, and I'm thinking I'm just giving the money to the city, but that money's not going to the city. It's going to fund these trauma centers all over the state of Texas. And if you've been in the military before and you had PTSD, you can go to those centers. And that's basically what I got to say.
Okay, appreciate it. Any other questions, comments?
Can I just make one comment about revenue?
Yes, ma'am.
I know that there's a lot of talk about the revenue. Statutorily, we can only have this system if it impacts public safety. We cannot have it to generate revenue, whatever happens with that revenue. So our only appropriate consideration is about whether those cameras in those intersections impact our public safety. I realize that there is a revenue side of that, but that cannot be part of our consideration.
Okay, so she just shut your deal down?
No, sir.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Gary, yeah, I'm kidding.
That's what the money is supposed to be used for,
man. Look,
and
okay.
I reiterate
All
that.
right. I think there's a motion, and I'm trying to remember if there was a second.
What was the motion?
Second.
What was
The motion was to table and allow the legislature to make their determination and then bring it back to council if, at that time.
Second.
Okay, you were the first. I can't make a motion to table. Yeah, I did.
I thought Gary made the motion.
Mr. Sims made the motion first, and you seconded.
Second, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion, excuse me. Okay, we have a dissent, which we understand. Motion passes. Okay. Item D, consider amending Article 7 of Chapter 4. I'm not going to read all that. Richard Manley.
Yes, so what we're going to ask y'all to do tonight is to create a new committee that we'll need to appoint, and that's going to be the next thing we do, to, as a matter of annual review, hold the council's feet to the fire to make sure that we did the things we committed to in the comprehensive plan. But before I get into that, let me bring up a slide and show you what the purpose of the committee was or is. And again, the greatest concern from all the people that served on the committee, and certainly Keith Honey, who was our chairman, and I was the liaison with him, were most concerned about was that this plan would be put on the shelf and not acted upon. So what this committee will do, and if I'll show you the next slide, the structure of it, we'll annually meet, probably late in the fiscal year, and assess exactly what has been done and what's not been done and report to the council. You'll see there'll be 2 council members and then 1 P&Z and 4 general members. So I need to ask you, first of all, to consider, and I guess we'll need a motion, right?
Right.
To actually create the committee first.
Okay, so you making that motion on
Yes, I am.
D. Okay, so we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Ms. Cash had a question.
Oh,
I did, I had a question.
okay, well, we hadn't voted yet. We have a motion and a second now. And that's on item D. I think that right there pertains
just the
to
creation
item
of the
E.
committee. Not the
Okay.
members.
Okay, that's just the creation of.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay, item E, a resolution making the appointments, reappointments, Chad Desney, et cetera, et cetera. Mr. Manley.
Again, we're coming to you with recommendations. Ms. Ishihara and I are the appointments committee. And what we're recommending is to wait until after the next council is seated to appoint the 2 city council members. And then we'd ask that you go ahead and appoint Lonnie Murphy, who is the chairman of P&Z. And then these 4 individuals who all served on the overall, the 30-member comprehensive plan committee that met for a year and a half to create the comprehensive plan. And that'll give us 5 now, and we'll appoint the other 2 council members as, again, subsequent to the election.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay. How y'all like that jumping around the agenda? Don't miss, I'm gonna make sure I got check marks on my piece of paper.
I guess I should mention other people being appointed, my apologies.
Okay. Did you want to do that? Okay.
I don't think Frankie
All right.
or Angie care.
All right, we have an item, another item. Mr. Finley, I need you to come forward. Golly. 15 years? And I want to tell you that Ty's been here with him since. This is a man, I tell you, he is the most frugal man when it comes to tire purchasing that I've ever been around. Every time I stick my head in Mr. Finley's office, he's got a little tire rack sitting there. So I guess he prepares for the meeting about 10 minutes before the meeting, grabs a tire off that rack. So one of the things in my departures, I'm gonna try to bring a few tires and add to his rack and see if we can upgrade the. You look pretty sharp tonight, though. Oh, you don't. But no, it's been great working with Jim for 15 years. I've been with him, and you know I can remember the city attorney before Mr. Finley, whose office is actually in what the mayor's and council's office is. And this guy had stacks of files that were so high on his desk, you literally, if you sat in a chair to talk to him, you couldn't see over the piles. And most of those were lawsuits that the city was defending or we were entering into. As a tremendous amount of paper and amount of money that we spent annually either defending ourselves or suing somebody, and it was incredible. And one of the big things with Mr. Finley coming on board was that number within a very short period of time was reduced dramatically, drastically. I don't know what adjective to use, but it was he's done a great job. And 15 years, okay? Appreciate it. And if you'll give me $4, I'll give you this 15-year pen.
I'll put it on my account.
No, no, seriously. Here's a 15-year service pin, Jim, man, and we appreciate all the great work you do.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
All right, buddy, thank you.
Okay, items of community interest. Mr. Sims.
Well, all good things must come to an end. And it's sad to me to be leaving the council tonight. Been here 9 years. It's been enjoyable. Our mayor, city manager, and the council has gotten a lot done. I'm proud of all of them. Most proud of the animal shelter. And I asked Laura Hill tonight if she had a vacancy in the Parks Department. She said, put in an application. And I think I will, with the understanding that I would get more than $250 a month.
You'd be getting a raise, right?
Yeah. So thank you all the citizens that has stood behind me, everyone else that has. It's been a good run, and now I guess I'm going to have my last supper in the anteroom after the meeting's over.
We got something special. We got meatloaf for you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gary.
Wow. Mr. Mayor, I must say, in the past 3 years, I have had the most amazing and intriguing time that I've had ever in my life. I met people all over the state of Texas and all over the city of Longview. Joel Osteen once said that there is no victory without sacrifice. And I've always been up by that motto. I just want to tell the people of the Southwest District number 2 and the whole city of Longview, thanks for giving me the opportunity to serve in this capacity. And my campaign slogan in 2012 was, let us make a difference together today for tomorrow. In my opinion, we made that difference within city government. Mayor Dean, you've been as the mayor of this city for the last 10 years, and I just want to say, and I may be stepping out of my lane here, but you have been the best mayor this city's ever had. You were a good steward, and you're a good example to follow into the future. For some examples, the street bond package, the regeneration of the sanitation program, new Longview Animal Shelter, and the 4th Street Extension project. You were behind those 100%. And I'm pretty sure it's board behind, but that's some of the ones I wanted to call out that I remember as a councilman on this council. Mayor Dean once said when I first came on this council, he said, Mr. Gary, that's what he always called me all the time, Mr. Gary, do your homework before you come to these meetings. When you vote on an issue affecting this city, vote with your heart and vote with your own conviction. And I never forgot that, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues that's on this council tonight for all their support and helping me continue to move forward. Because without these senior council people on this council, I mean, as a new councilman, you're just a freshman, you're a rookie, you don't know anything that's going on. And you're talking about issues that affect this whole city, and people depend on us to carry out, to look out for their best interests. I have completed my task. I have finished with grace. I ask for your prayers as I continue to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good job. Thank you, Gary.
That was nice. That was really nice. Let me just say this first. It's been an absolute pleasure. Mr. Sims, I've known you since prior to my being elected. Thank you for your support. Mr. Smith, Councilman Smith, Councilman Sims, thank you. It has been a delight serving with you as well. Mayor, I'm not even gonna go down that road with you right now. We know, but we know, I'm not gonna tell y'all tonight what he calls me when I answer the phone. But indeed, it's been a pleasure. On another note, shout out to Longview Fire Department. Chief J.P. Stillman, wherever you are, we've been in constant communication. You rolled in from a tornado to a derailment in Bivens Addition. Our guys were on top of everything in tandem with the Red Cross. And it just makes me so proud to know they have the situation completely under control. And I want to publicly thank he and our Fire Marshal, Johnny Zachary, for all of their hard work, and also for being respectful enough to stay in communication with me. That's integral, because as council members, we like to know what's going on in our districts. And sometimes we're not plugged in to everything. But I just appreciate it, and then the next morning, before I could get my coffee good, I had another phone call, and it was Chief Steelman. So that's just an example of how important our firemen and our emergency responders are. So thank you for that again, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Shahara.
I would echo Cash's thank you. I wanted to acknowledge and appreciate again our first responders for their response during the tornado that hit specifically my district about 2 weeks ago. Chief Dingler, Chief Steelman were incredible, and I will tell you, I met with a number of those residents who had property damage, and despite the negative catastrophe that had happened to them, they were beaming with pride about Longview because a first responder had been at their door immediately asking if they were safe, asking what they could do, helping them clear things out of their yard. I left feeling very blessed with those interactions and very proud of our first responders, and I hope that the community will share that as well. So job well done. Continue to keep those people that were impacted in your prayers. There is still work to be done, but great job.
Thank you. Mr. Manley.
A couple of things. So I was there with Kristen a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's amazing how things like this bring out great things of great people, in great people. So we have a great city here and some great citizens. To Mr. Sims, Mr. Smith, Mayor, fair winds and following seas. Best of luck to you. And then one other thing, our mayor chairs our Metropolitan Planning Organization called MPO. And one of the things they were celebrating today was that the first and second phases of the George Ritchie Road will be finished in 2016, and that the third phase, which will run between McCann Road and Gilmer Road, should be completed by 2018. This is a project that wasn't even supposed to start until 2022, but because of our county judge, our mayor, pushing hard to work cooperatively with the MPO, with TxDOT, with LEEDCO. This $32 million project got done 5 to 10 years ahead of time. And this is an example of how we can work together. This is the template, I think, as Judge Stout called it, for the future for our area. And I'd like to point that out again, congratulate everyone that was involved in it. Thank you, Mayor Dean, for your leadership. And of course, this is a great thing for District 5 and the Judson Spring Hill area, but it's a great thing for our city. So congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, one more year. It's going to be very interesting. Our next meeting will be May 18th, I believe, and we'll have quite a turnover up here. It's going to be an interesting year. Looking forward to working through it and enjoying it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sidney. Okay, in the aftermath of the tornado that caused damage in northeast Longview on April 9th and the possibility of severe storms throughout the year, including tomorrow, Longview Fire Chief J.P. Steelman encourages residents to continue to think about emergency preparedness and consider signing up for Code Red emergency notification and weather warning system. To sign up to the City of Longview's emergency notification and weather warning system powered by Code Red, please visit longviewtexas.gov or call Public Safety Communications 903-237-1170. The City of Longview election for Mayor, District 1, 2, and 5 will be held Saturday, May 9th. Early voting begins April 27th. All early voting will take place at City Hall. Election day voting will take place within each district. For more information, contact the City Secretary's office at 903-237-1080 or visit longviewtexas.gov. And, you know, to the citizens of Longview, there are many ample opportunities to cast your vote. It's really a shame when you look at the turnout of city-wide elections as compared to the federal government, and in state and in county, and the poor city lags way down at the bottom. And you know, tonight it was such a blessing to see all the people coming here to talk about, you know, issues and how they felt about things. there can be nothing more important than your vote, because you choose who's looking at, reviewing, and making decisions on your behalf. And when you don't go vote, you know, it's a wasted opportunity. So please take the opportunity and to go out. It's a contested race, and good candidates all around. Please make your vote count. Plans underway for the Longview Firework and Freedom Festival. Feature a free outdoor concert headlined by Delbert McClinton. What's that song he sings? Boy, y'all terrible country people. Who in here knows what Delbert McClinton's famous song is?
Rollin McPhee does.
Rollin, where you at? Rollin's watching the A&M, but he's watching the A&M LSU baseball team game. I know that. Okay, so anyway, Delbert's going to come for the largest fireworks show in East Texas. Sponsorship opportunities are available. A portion of sponsorship proceeds will benefit the Miracle League of East Texas project to construct a universally accessible baseball field at Lear Park. For vendor sponsorship information, please call the Maud Cobb Convention Activity Complex 903-237-1230 or visit longviewtexas.gov/fireworks. The May 14th council meeting is canceled and will be moved to Monday, May 18th at 5:30, which will include the swearing in of the newly elected mayor, council representative, District 1, 2, and 5. I want to thank council for giving me the opportunity to serve, you know, and the citizens, of course, for giving me the opportunity to serve. I think, you know, today at the reception was asked several times, what's some of the things you think you'll remember most, and I haven't really given any thought to that at this point. But I think the most important thing back in '05 was, you know, the code of conduct of the councils at the time. It was less than admirable, and the very first order of business, I can remember that Monday morning, was to have a meeting where the entire council was brought in, and I explained what I thought was a proper code of conduct. We wrote up a code of conduct. I think each member of this council signed on to it, and I hope that will continue so that we understand how we are to represent ourselves in this chamber that belongs to the citizens of Longview. It is not our chamber, it is their chamber. And we can respectfully agree to disagree, but it's about working together toward the common cause and doing it in a respectful, dignified way so that, you know, we move on to the next. And that's probably my most, you know, I mean, my proudest moment was the fact that everyone signed on, and that has continued, and you have represented that, so I do appreciate that. To the citizens that were here tonight regarding Paula Martin Jones, I hope they left completely understanding what we're trying to do here. We're going to continue to operate the facility. Nothing's going to change. We're going to try to see if there's ways for, you know, differing parties to come together and end up with a better product. And like I said, there's some pros and cons both ways. We got a very old building that needs a whole lot of work. And it might be more achievable by working together, okay, so that work gets done. So I hope they understand this is to continue moving the process forward, and no decisions have been made, but it's to continue to move that forward. And I think that's in my opinion, that's how government should work, that we, the people, should get a chance to have our input to what we're doing and end up with a much better product. So I won't go off into any more of that kind of stuff tonight. But I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I want to thank the citizens of Longview, and this meeting is adjourned.